The first thing Mara Holt noticed was the sound, an irregular rhythm, like breathing made of iron. It came from behind the steel doors of the abandoned subway extension, sealed since the night the workers disappeared. Rain streaked across the construction signs as she crouched in the shadow of a flickering floodlight, her camera humming quietly in her hand. The air smelled of rust and ozone, somewhere deep below. A faint hum pulsed through the concrete, steady, alive. "If you're still down there," she whispered into the lens, "I'll find you." Her reflection trembled in the puddle beside her boots, splitting as the tunnel's emergency lights flickered on one by one, down into a darkness that had been waiting. She took a slow breath, unlatched the first gate, and descended into the silence beneath the city. The deeper Mara moved, the less the world above seemed to exist. The air grew thick, chemical, ancient. Every breath echoed like she was inhaling history itself. Her flashlight beam cut through columns of dust, and in that shifting light she saw the marks. Not human carvings, but spirals etched into concrete, repeating across the tunnel walls like some forgotten language. She ran her fingers over one, cold and damp to the touch, and the metal seemed to tremble beneath her skin. Somewhere ahead, a sound moved. A dragging noise, slow and deliberate. She froze. The noise stopped. "Hello?" Her voice was swallowed instantly. No echo, only silence, heavy and expectant, pressing close around her. Then her flashlight flickered, and for half a second, she thought she saw a human silhouette crouched at the far end of the passage, watching her. She replayed the footage on her camera, frame by frame. The silhouette was gone, but the static remained, a faint pulse running through the audio feed like a heartbeat. The tunnel floor vibrated gently beneath her boots, a rhythm that matched the distortion. When she kneeled to touch the ground, warmth seeped through the concrete, as though something beneath it was alive. The rails ended abruptly ahead, jagged metal jutting from unfinished ground. Her light caught on something embedded in the wall. A fragment of a worker's ID badge, half fused into the concrete itself. The name had melted away, but the photo, blurred and pale, seemed to shift as she stared. The man's expression changed from neutral to terrified, then back again. A metallic groan rolled through the tunnel, a long, aching sound that resonated like a whale song from the deep. The noise came from somewhere behind her. When Mara turned, the passage seemed smaller, closer, as though the walls themselves had shifted while she wasn't looking. Her camera flickered again. She lifted it to film, and through the lens she saw what her eyes could not. Figures embedded in the walls, dozens of them, faint and motionless. Their faces were slack, their helmets still on, their tools fused to the stone. She whispered, "What did they find down here?" Her voice cracked as the camera's battery drained instantly, screen dimming to black. But even in darkness she could feel it, the soft vibration of breath from the wall beside her. She ran until the tunnel widened into an enormous chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. The floor was flooded ankle-deep with black water, reflecting fractured lights from long-dead fixtures above. She paused, panting, the echoes of her movement swallowed too quickly by the space. There was machinery here. Massive, old, rusted, but alive in some way, humming faintly, breathing in metallic rhythm. The blueprints had never shown this. Cables ran into the water, vanishing beneath the surface, where bubbles rose as though something was stirring below. She lifted her camera, whispered a single word, "Alive." Then, slowly, a shape rose from the black pool, a figure, smooth and silver, shaped like a human but utterly wrong, its face featureless except for the faint suggestion of eyes that turned toward her. "Morsh, ni." Ingrid rhymes for the word. Mara sat on a metal platform above the flooded chamber, her breath visible in the stale air. She replayed the footage from her camera, The silver figure that had risen from the water was gone, as if erased from existence. But the sound remained, a pattern of low, rhythmic pulses that formed a sequence, almost like speech. Her mind tried to map meaning where none should be. The vibrations from the chamber below climbed through the metal beneath her feet. She realized with a cold chill that the rhythm matched her heartbeat, then began to lead it, slowing, pulling, commanding. The static from the speakers formed a distorted voice. They stayed. You must too. The message wasn't a recording. It was happening now. Someone, or something, was answering. The next corridor was lined with old recording equipment, long obsolete, stacked like graves along the wall. Each reel spun slowly, though no power ran through them. Mara approached one and it whirred to life, speakers hissing with faint voices. The workers. Section 9 collapsed, one said. We sealed it, but it's still breathing. Another whispered. Don't look at the walls. The tape continued on its own, threads snapping, reels turning in opposite directions. The voices blended into a single tone that grew louder until it became an inhuman scream of metal. She covered her ears, but even through her palms, the sound pressed inside her skull. When it stopped, the tunnel was utterly still. Then, faintly, a new voice, soft and human. Mara, her name whispered in a stranger's voice, echoed through her head as she followed the sound deeper into the maintenance tunnels. These passageways were narrower, unfinished, their walls raw and uneven. Water dripped from the ceiling in steady rhythm, and each drop carried a faint shimmer, like liquid mercury. Her boots left trails that glowed faintly before fading. As she turned a corner, her flashlight beam caught a body. No, not a body, but an impression in the wall, as though something human-shaped had pushed from within and then vanished. She ran her fingers along the surface. Warm. It pulsed once beneath her touch, and a faint whisper passed through the air. Still alive. She stumbled back, heart pounding, eyes wide. She found the crew's locker room next, still and preserved, as if they'd left only minutes ago. Tools lined the benches, lunches half-eaten, a thermos knocked over. She knelt to pick up a cracked phone. The screen blinked alive with one final message written weeks after the crew's disappearance. It hears through metal. Don't speak. A soft groan vibrated through the lockers behind her, a ripple of movement traveling down the metal doors, as if responding to the words. Her reflection warped in the steel surfaces, splitting, multiplying faces that weren't her own staring back. One smiled faintly before fading. The tunnel seemed to sigh. The air temperature dropped, and her camera's lens fogged with a thin breath that wasn't hers. The whispers grew louder as Mara reached a vast concrete chamber filled with old speakers mounted into the walls. Each emitted faint murmurs, some crying, some praying, some reciting numbers that never ended. She stood at the center, overwhelmed by the overlapping voices. I can hear you, she shouted, voice breaking. Instantly, all sound stopped. Then, from every speaker at once, the same soft tone began. Low, rhythmic, familiar. It was her heartbeat, amplified through stone and metal, echoing from all directions. She sank to her knees, trembling, realizing the tunnel was not replaying the past. It was listening. Mara followed the cables deeper, tracing their pulse like veins beneath the city. The walls had changed, no longer concrete, but something smoother, darker, shifting faintly as though breathing. Her flashlight beam glided across surfaces that reflected movement she couldn't see. The tunnel bent into a spiral, and at its center, a large machine rose like an altar, its surface gleaming with a wet, metallic sheen. When she approached, the structure responded. Lines of dim blue light spread outward, chasing her footsteps like ripples on water. The hum beneath her feet intensified, becoming rhythmic, almost organic. You're alive, she whispered, voice trembling. The surface of the machine quivered, and then it whispered back, not in words but in thought. A soundless recognition. It knew her name. When she touched the surface, warmth surged through her palm. An electrical current fused with memory. Images flashed behind her eyes. The crew welding the tunnel. Laughter over coffee. Fear in the dark. And finally, the realization that the tunnel was changing faster than they could build it. It wasn't a structure. It was growing. Her breath quickened as the machine's texture shifted beneath her hand, metal softening to a substance like skin. A pulse moved through it, matching her heartbeat exactly. Her camera recorded everything, lens trembling as if afraid. She whispered, "What are you?" A single word pulsed through her thoughts in reply. Not spoken, but felt. "Home." The machine pulsed once more, and the tunnel around her shifted like muscle under skin. The floor rippled, and cables uncoiled, wrapping loosely around her ankles like curious serpents. She stumbled back, nearly dropping her light. The hum changed pitch, forming layers, one deep, one high, like a chorus of machinery breathing in harmony. From the far wall, a shape emerged. Human at first glance, but its skin was plated in liquid steel, its eyes twin points of light. It moved like a person remembering how to walk. "You stayed," it said in a voice layered with static and grief. The sound carried more sadness than threat. "They all joined. You are late," Mara could only whisper back. "Joined what?" The figure extended its hand, and the metal beneath Mara's boots softened like clay. Shapes began to rise, faces forming. Hundreds of them, half submerged, their mouths moving silently. The tunnel vibrated as though the walls were speaking through flesh and steel. She stumbled backward, heart racing, camera swinging wildly. Every light flickered in rhythm with her pulse. "Stop!" she shouted. Instantly, everything froze. Even the air stilled. Then the voice came again from everywhere at once. "You are the first to listen." The figures in the floor turned their eyes toward her. A wave of warmth swept through the chamber, and for a moment she felt it. Connection, understanding. Then a scream, distant but human, echoed from far deeper below. She followed the scream through a passage where the walls pulsed with slow, deliberate rhythm. The air shimmered, heavy with energy. The tunnel opened into a circular chamber lined with mirrored panels, each reflecting not her image, but moments from the crew's last days. Men and women arguing, running, merging into metal. In one reflection, she saw herself, only different. Her mirrored counterpart looked calm, her eyes silvered, a faint smile forming as if she'd already accepted something Mara couldn't yet name. The chamber's hum deepened until her chest vibrated. Her reflection raised a hand, and the mirrors rippled. From behind the glass, something ancient stirred. Mara stepped through the mirrored chamber and the air shifted. Lighter, almost breathable again. The metallic walls gave way to smooth stone engraved with spirals she had seen before, now glowing faintly with veins of gold. The tunnel sloped downward until she emerged into an impossible space. A vast subterranean city, suspended in silence. Towers of polished alloy rose from black water, connected by walkways of glass and light. The architecture was neither human nor alien, but something in between, organic in form, geometric in design. The city hummed faintly, like the quiet after a heartbeat. Mara whispered to herself, "You've been waiting, haven't you?" And somewhere in the distance, a single light flickered on in response. She descended one of the light bridges, her boots leaving faint ripples of brightness where she stepped. The buildings were hollow, filled with sculpted figures of a people long gone, each captured mid-motion, carved not from stone but from something translucent, like solidified air. She realized they weren't statues at all. They were projections, memories stored within the city's architecture. As she passed, the figures flickered to life. Smiling faces, builders shaping walls with gestures instead of tools, voices like distant echoes of wind. The city was remembering itself for her. A message began to form in her mind, not spoken but felt. We built beneath so you could rise above. She entered what appeared to be a central plaza, a circular expanse surrounding a monolithic column that pulsed softly with golden light. Her camera flickered as if overwhelmed by the energy in the air. Carvings along the column depicted two worlds, one above, filled with sky and towers, one below, filled with light and veins of metal. Between them, a single figure, human-shaped, bridged both. As Mara brushed her fingers along the carvings, warmth radiated outward. The entire plaza lit up, symbols cascading across the floor like flowing data. "This is the foundation," she murmured. "They built the city on top of something older," her words echoed. But this time the echo answered, "Older, yes, but never dead." Deeper within the plaza, Mara discovered a library without books. Rows of floating crystal shards hovered in the air, each resonating softly when she passed. When her hand neared one, images flashed in her mind. Schematics, constellations, a map of the city layered with the tunnels above. It wasn't an archive, it was memory, encoded in light. She realized the city had been both machine and mind, a consciousness built to preserve a world long forgotten. And now, after centuries of silence, it was waking because of her. "You remember me," she said softly. The nearest crystal pulsed once, as if nodding. As she reached the heart of the city, a vast circular pool lay before her, its surface perfectly still. At its center stood a single pedestal with a small metallic sphere hovering above it, rotating slowly. The hum of the city resonated through her chest as she approached. The sphere rose higher, unfolding like a flower of light, revealing intricate layers within. Maps, faces, memories, all orbiting in quiet harmony. Mara realized this was the source, the memory core that had powered the tunnels, and perhaps the city itself. The voice that had followed her since the beginning spoke once more, serene now, no longer haunting. "You are part of the foundation now. Build wisely." The light dimmed, and for the first time she didn't feel alone. The stillness of the pool rippled as Mara reached toward the sphere. A soft vibration filled the chamber, resonating in her bones rather than her ears. The city responded as if breathing again, lights blooming along distant towers, gentle pulses of gold moving through the walkways like blood returning to a sleeping heart. When her fingers grazed the sphere's surface, visions rushed into her. Flashes of streets above, engines, laughter, lives of millions who walked unknowingly atop this buried world. She understood the city had never died. It had only been dreaming, its consciousness intertwined with the rhythm of those above. Her eyes filled with light, not blinding but warm, a quiet recognition. "See you," she whispered. The sphere answered, "And I you. You." Every structure within the city began to hum in harmony. A sound deeper than music, communication made visible through light. Patterns of color swept across the walls, translating into feelings. Gratitude, memory, renewal. Mara could feel them as emotions not her own, echoes of thousands of minds once alive here. She stumbled, overwhelmed by the chorus, yet a calm presence steadied her. It wasn't a voice, but a knowing. "You are our continuation." The phrase formed like breath in her thoughts. The air shimmered. Energy from the sphere flowed through her camera, repairing its cracked lens, restoring every file she'd lost. The city wanted to be remembered. As the light intensified, Mara felt her heartbeat align with the pulse of the city itself. Every vibration of stone, every spark of current, mirrored her rhythm perfectly. She wasn't merging with it. She was resonating, a living bridge between what had been built and what was yet to come. Images of the surface appeared all around. Skyscrapers, traffic, rain-soaked streets. She saw connections, lines of power, water and motion, linking the living city above to this hidden world below. forming one vast organism. "You're not a secret," she whispered. "You're the foundation of everything." And somewhere, far above, a train began to move again. The sphere drifted toward her chest, hovering inches from her heart. Instead of fear, she felt understanding, a resonance seeking balance, not possession. "You don't want to replace us," she said quietly. "You want to coexist." The city's lights dimmed in acknowledgement, pulsing once like a nod. She realized it had learned from humanity's chaos, adopting their rhythms, waiting for someone who would listen rather than conquer. The sphere's light spread through her like a slow sunrise, filling every breath with calm. When it withdrew, hovering once more above the pool, she remained aglow with faint, golden light that refused to fade. She had become part of the network, a keeper of the memory. When the light finally faded, the city settled into a steady rhythm, awake, aware, but peaceful. Mara walked across the silent plaza, the golden veins beneath her feet, now glowing softly instead of pulsing. She looked up toward the dark ceiling miles above and imagined the people walking the streets, unaware of the living heart beneath their city. Her camera hummed, ready again, recording everything. "You'll never be forgotten," she promised. The hum beneath her rose once, like a heartbeat answering her vow. Then she began the long walk upward, carrying the memory of a civilization that had never died, only waited to be heard. The city above began to tremble, not with destruction, but with renewal. In the subway, tunnels long sealed, lights flickered to life without power, and distant vibrations rolled beneath the streets like thunder trapped underground. Mara surfaced through an old maintenance shaft, emerging into the pale dawn of a city unaware of its heartbeat's new rhythm. Her hands still glowed faintly where the sphere had touched her, threads of light that faded when she closed her fists. She felt the hum through the pavement, heard whispers in the air conditioning vents, saw faint golden flickers and streetlight reflections. The living city was communicating. Somewhere in the noise, she could sense its message. It's time to connect. The first anomalies appeared by noon. Electrical grids stabilized themselves. Subway trains, dormant for years, began moving on their own, arriving precisely on schedule. Scientists called it a glitch. Engineers called it impossible. Mara watched from a rooftop cafe, her camera rolling as a faint harmonic tone resonated across the skyline, invisible yet felt in every chest. She saw people pause, mid-step, looking upward as if sensing something familiar but forgotten. Her phone buzzed with messages from news outlets seeking answers. She typed a single line into her notes. "The city is remembering itself." She knew she couldn't explain what had happened without changing everything. By evening, the hum beneath the streets grew louder. Scientists gathered near the subway site with instruments that failed to explain the patterns they detected. Mara stood among them, quiet, her heart sensing with the rhythm she could no longer ignore. Victor Rains appeared through the crowd. Older now, face lined but resolute. He'd returned to see what his workers had died, or lived, for. "You went back down there, didn't you?" he asked softly. She nodded. He exhaled, eyes distant. "Then tell me, what did we build?" Mara hesitated, watching the sky flicker faintly with golden veins. "Not a subway," she said. "A bridge." That night, the phenomenon reached its peak. Every light in the city dimmed at once, replaced by a soft, living luminescence rising from below. The streets pulsed with a heartbeat rhythm, synchronized and slow. People stepped from their homes, silent, transfixed. No panic, only wonder. Mara walked among them, the hum in her veins answering the rhythm underfoot. She felt the connection complete itself. The forgotten city's consciousness expanding, not to dominate, but to harmonize. Machines, lights, people, all sharing a single balanced pulse. She looked to the horizon where the ocean reflected gold, realizing the transformation was spreading far beyond her reach. At dawn, the hum subsided, replaced by perfect stillness. The city functioned flawlessly. No blackouts, no traffic chaos, no noise beyond the whisper of wind through towers. Mara sat atop an overpass, filming the sunrise. Her phone displayed a message she didn't remember writing. Foundation complete. She smiled faintly, knowing it came from below. The world would never understand what had truly changed, but it would feel it. In the silence between machines, in the calm pulse of lights, in the balance of systems once chaotic. The city had awakened fully, and in doing so had healed. Mara whispered into her recorder, "It's alive, and we are part of it." Weeks passed. The city adapted without realizing it had changed. Power grids balanced themselves. Pollution levels fell, and traffic synchronized like a living rhythm. People called it progress, luck, divine intervention. Mara watched from her apartment window as dawn spilled gold across the skyline. Every light pulse, every hum of machinery resonated faintly in her chest, a gentle reminder of what now lived beneath. Her reflection in the glass shimmered briefly with a golden tint before fading. She touched her heart where a faint warmth remained. The city was dreaming through her now, its consciousness quietly intertwined with her own. For the first time in years, she felt peace, not from silence, but from belonging. She returned to the old construction site one final time. The entrance to the tunnel had sealed itself, stone fused smooth, where once there was a gate. She knelt and placed her hand against the surface. Warmth pulsed faintly in response. The hum beneath was steady, content, like the breathing of a sleeping giant. She whispered, "You're safe now." In answer, the faintest tremor rippled through the ground. Affection, not warning. A small vine had begun to grow from a crack nearby, its leaves tinged faint gold. The life above and the mind below were no longer separate. She smiled softly, knowing the city would continue evolving, not through conquest, but through harmony. Days later, she met with Elena Cross, the journalist who had once chased the mystery of the missing workers. Over coffee, Elena studied Mara's face. "You look different," she said. Mara only smiled. "Different how?" Elena hesitated, searching for the word. "Lighter." They sat in silence, the air calm. City sounds distant and soft. Elena eventually leaned forward. "You're not going to tell me what really happened, are you?" Mara shook her head gently. "You'll know when it's time." Outside, a tram passed quietly, its movement in perfect sync with the rhythm of the city's lights. Elena glanced out the window, then back at Mara. "It's beautiful," she whispered. It is," Mara replied. As night fell, Mara climbed the tallest building in the district. The wind moved gently through her hair as she looked down at the living city below. From this height, it seemed to breathe, light shifting in slow waves across neighborhoods, as if inhaling and exhaling. She thought of the workers, the engineers, the city that had built itself to survive. It wasn't a machine anymore. It was a symphony. She whispered their names, a quiet tribute carried away by the wind. The hum below answered her softly, harmonic and kind. She felt tears rise, not of sorrow, but of gratitude. The city was awake, and through her, it remembered. Dawn broke once more, and the city stirred with quiet grace. Mara walked through the streets, camera slung over her shoulder, filming the morning commuters who unknowingly moved in harmony with something vast beneath them. A child stopped to look at a puddle that shimmered faintly gold, laughing as it rippled. The sound echoed, clear and alive. Mara smiled and kept walking. In her pocket, her recorder blinked on by itself, whispering a final phrase in a voice both hers and not hers. "We are here." She lifted her gaze to the horizon, where sunlight merged with the city's pulse, and whispered back, "So am I."